You are listening to the BlahCade Pinball Podcast. I'm your host, Shut Your Trap, aka Chris Freemas. Joining me as always, halfway across the world, Jared Morgan. Want to do that in one breath.
Chris, how's it going? I'm doing really good today. Thank you very much. It's really good.
Alrighty.
Are we channeling our inner Dr. Dude just there? I think we were.
I don't know that I have ever needed to channel Dr. Dude, but okay.
Achievement unlocked.
Achievement. Were we in the mix master there? Hey, folks. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you once again for joining us each week as we do when we get to it on a weekly basis, which is most of the time. So we appreciate it.
Try and keep it regular. Yeah.
We do try and keep it regular as such. So, since last week, not much has gone on.
No, not much digital has gone on at all, really. It's been it's one of those sort of periods, the calm before the storm, I think, because...
Right, because the dropping on, well, basically when this podcast drops, so will the new Jurassic Park tables for Zen. So, look forward to us talking about that next week.
Then we'll have something to talk about for sure.
And also by that time, and I haven't checked this week because it seemed early and I hadn't seen anything in the forum mentioning it, but Bonsai Run will probably be in beta by that point too. So
yeah,
you
might
probably
be able to.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in that lull of when there's not much. What does that mean? That means
we phone it in like a telecom worker.
No, that's not what it means. It means I go searching through the Pinball Arcade fans forum and see what's bugging people, if anything. And turns out I stumbled across one this week.
Oh, did you?
Well, as we go through phases in the Pinball Arcade fans threads, basically you'll get periods of time where people are really happy with Farsight. And then those times will dissipate because it becomes well, hey, what have you done for me lately? And if Farsight hasn't done anything for them lately, then the claws come out and people start groaning and moaning. And this has been going on since the dawn of the game, basically, it seems.
Yeah,
and,
well, since People Like Hey fans forum was set up, at least.
Right. And what winds up happening is you'll get some people that will get more and more perturbed because their particular issue isn't getting addressed. And what I've noticed is it becomes, speaking in generalities, at which point it's now just white noise, and I get frustrated with the white noise. And so this week's white noise was people once again claiming, and this is if you wanted to follow along at all, it's in the table pack number 72 speculation thread. For those of you that don't go to first the Pinball Arcade fans website, as soon as the newest table is announced, they start speculating what the next table is going to be, and it becomes this kind of fun guessing game. And it's also where kind of the wish list of, well, hey, here's what we're hoping, drops and stuff like that. So I don't know how it got into this, but I think it also becomes hey, so what new bugs are going to be introduced to the game, and which table is not going to be playable this month, and that stuff, because legitimately those things get introduced each release,
even unintentionally, because the platform's becoming complex now. It's a 10-year-old engine, and it's starting to probably reveal certain parts of it that need to probably have a bit of extra work done to it.
Right. So something that gets me kind of riled up is when people do just go, oh, the game's terrible and it's unplayable.
Care to be more specific?
Right? Because you just sound like you're groaning and moaning, and it's about what? And I've seen the game is unplayable thing pop up time and time again. And I'm like, I've been playing this game since it was released. I've never had the game not be playable. I have had tables crash on me. The majority of the time, that's always been during beta. Or in the case of, say, a Ripley's, where you went beyond the scoring that you should have gone beyond, and now it's having trouble keeping track of balls or whatever. Yeah, what's going on? And so then the table kind of frees up, and I've had that issue before, but I've never had the game be just borked, not work.
Cannot load it, sort of. broken.
Yeah. I've detailed the problems that I had with Ghostbusters, and it became apparent that it's an issue with my machine. It wasn't an issue with the program itself, the game itself, other than not being efficiently written so that it would work on my machine. But that's a whole nother, like you said, 10-year-old engine. So anyway, I piped up and said, can we please stop with the rhetoric of something being unplayable? And, well, they bit back. They said, but it is if you try to. And so I promised that I'd bring it up in the podcast just to try and get the ears of Farsight, get their attention, and maybe highlight this. But this particular build, which is 1.69.4 in DX11, on Steam, Elvira and the Party Monsters. You push start, the game freezes and crashes. You play Haunted House and push start, game freezes and crashes. And then, and when I say crash, it's not the table just crashing, it's the whole game crashing. You got to exit out and restart the game. Right. And then apparently, and this is one I can't check myself, but it says that Ghostbusters have become terrible with its stuttering frame rate. Now, this was on top of, like, they're also complaining about how, say, on Roadshow, there is a horizontal line across the table. Where basically they were stitching the playfield together, you might say.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that some people will say, it's unplayable because there's, a pixel line going across. So that's what I was making sure of was not, so fine, that's still there, but obviously the game is very much playable. And I relate to things like that, like if a insert light isn't working or there's a graphical glitch, well, you're playing on a crappy machine. Out in the wild. Yeah. You found a table, and unfortunately, somebody didn't upkeep it, and the paint is worn off, and certain flippers don't work or whatever. But anyway,
exactly. Just move on to the next machine. That's like, essentially it's like saying, this one table's broken, so therefore the entire arcade is stuffed. Like, you may as well close the entire arcade because this game is not working. It's like, well. Really?
Right. Or because it's got a graphical glitch, well, again, I can still play the game. But obviously, if it is indeed as I booted it up myself to try, and sure enough, yes, Elvira and Party Monsters, it crashed the whole game.
Yeah. That's like,
those are the kind of things that, folks, you need to do exactly this. Yes, list what version of the game you're playing, list what system you're playing it on, because there's problems that people have on PS4 that nobody else has. There's problems that people have on iOS that nobody else has.
Yes.
So you need to delineate what platform you're playing it on, what version of the game you're trying to play it on, and then, yes, please be as specific as possible in regards to what is happening so that other users can try it themselves and maybe get back and say, well, I'm not having a problem, you're having a problem. So then it becomes, is it a global problem or is it a you and your machine problem? And if it's a global problem, then obviously we can raise the flags, alert Farsight to it. You should be doing the same. You email Farsight, I believe it's service@farsightstudios.com.
I think it's support at Farsight.
Or support, excuse me, support, yes. So yeah, support@farsightstudios.com. Log your ticket of what's going on. This is how we get things fixed, not by just going off on the rails and saying everything's borked, but by being very particular about what it is that is the issue so that they know to laser focus in on it. So one of the things also that I noticed when I loaded up Elvira, or when I was getting ready to load Elvira up, and under the high scores, so the start menu shows, and then it shows what the highest score is or whatever on the table. It's, I don't even think it's trillion. What's the next number after trillion? Cajillion?
A bajillion.
It's some absurdly many zeroed number that, come on, Farsight, please, for the love of God. This is painfully obvious. Can we fix the scores? And who knows, maybe that's part of what's borking it. I don't know.
Maybe. I think we should have the same similar sort of hashtag that Stern has for where's the code. We should have a fix the scores hashtag. Oh dear. The thing is with bug reporting, and you really have summarized it pretty well, but if you don't know how to actually, if you're new to software and you want to actually be a constructive community member and actually really help out, then you can go on and search on the internet for how to write a bug report, and you'll get a lot of different good ways of doing it. And basically, it's all about the detail.
But there's also just some common sense.
Yeah.
Where again, point exactly to what your problem is and point it in the right direction. If you're just throwing it up in some random thread on Pinball Arcade fans, there's no guarantee that anybody from Farsight's going to see it. And then if they don't see it, you're just going to get perpetually perturbed about it. So you got to let the right people know.
I guess that was going to be my next point. You don't do it in a speculation thread and expect it to be answered. Go and do it in the platform specific thread that you are playing, and then raise your bug in there in a clear thread so that you can get the attention it deserves, and definitely follow up with support at farsight.com.
So
that's it, really.
Here's another issue that's saying it's on BlahCade, and that when starting multi-ball, the airlock remains closed, so balls drain from lower playfield instead of entering main playfield. And then it says the physics are broken too. Drop targets shoot the ball harder than any pop bumper if a ball touches them, and flippers have crazy power too.
That's been like that ever since the game was released. That's now a feature of the table. Pop bumper drop targets are a feature of the table. It's been a bug that long now that I think the season 1 collision, or not, season 1 tuning on all the targets and everything, it's completely stuffed. Like, you'll see any table in season 1 that hasn't been redone, and they all behave that way. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
And see, this is one of those things too, where it's like, I rarely touch BlahCade. I never touch Haunted House.
No.
I don't usually play Elvira and the Party Monsters. If I'm going to play Elvira, I typically play Scared Stiff. So, we're verging on coming close to 100 tables. It is impossible to go through every table every month in beta to figure out what is working and what isn't. And not only that, it's not just a matter of loading up the table and seeing it loads, but doing specifically like with BlahCade. Well, if I never got multi-ball going on BlahCade, I would never know if there was an issue. And then on top of that, I better know all the rules of BlahCade to know what the proper behavior is. So
exactly. This
is where the game has become so massive. We are definitely entirely dependent, and I'm saying we in the universal we, not we as in me and Jared work for Farsight, because we don't.
No, we
don't. But it needs the community's attention. That's the only way that these things are going to be caught, because can you imagine if you were in QA and had to put in a true game, basically, so activate all the modes on a table before being able to move on to the next table, and doing that for every single game before the game was actually officially released?
No, you wouldn't release games. That's the thing.
You're right.
Like, they just wouldn't go out. So there's zero chance that you can actually do that, because it's not something you can even script on a table or automate or continuous integration tests or anything. It is behavioral testing and observational testing, which is where we come in as players. Like, we know, not just Pinball Arcade fans, but in general, the people who play the platform, we know how the games should play, and really it's up to us to actually help Farsight tame the beast. Really.
And to be fair, this is obviously an issue with how Farsight software. I mean, releasing a game shouldn't break previous games. That just shouldn't happen. And I don't have an excuse, an answer, or a reason for any of that. It is kind of ridiculous, and it obviously makes quality control that much more difficult when you don't have a game stable enough, I guess. I don't even know where you would start with that. I'm not a programmer, so I don't I just know what makes sense, of usually if you fix something or add something, it shouldn't break other things that you haven't touched.
the problem is it comes down to the classic issue with software, and that is technical debt. They are probably harboring about 10 years of technical debt in their code base, and it's now really starting to make progressively releasing a stable platform with minimal regressions a challenge. So whenever any company gets to that point, they need to make a decision. How do we burn it down? We're doing it at the moment at Ladbrokes, where I work. Like, we've got the same problem in our code base, and we slowly breaking down what they call a monolith into microservices and breaking down the product that way. But it's hard work, and that's the problem. Like, they are on the monthly cycle of DLCs, and they don't have the time to dedicate an engineering team to go back through and rewrite their engine. Which is essentially what they need to do. It's one of those things that cost too much, and at the point at which it gets that bad, what's going to happen is it's going to prevent them from releasing. But again, that's not something that we can control. That's something that we can know about. And when things like this happen, that's what we have to attribute it to. And look, I wouldn't like to be. I don't know who it would be at Farsight. Probably not Norman, but the person in charge of development, overarchingly. Like that is a very big elephant to chew, basically.
Well, and we always point back to it. Zen has obviously chewed this element 3 times now.
They have, but they see that the thing is they've done it 3 times.
Right.
They would have actually detected, oh yeah, okay, we're starting to get to the point now where we're uncomfortable with the amount of technical debt floating around our platform. Let's spend 3 months, 6 months, arbitrary in time here, whatever they took them to do it, and get rid of the debt. So we're actually down to a level of debt that we can feel comfortable about in our sleep. So look, it's software is hard. So we need to, I guess, cut them a bit of slack, because what we're saying here about technical debt, and what I'm saying here about technical debt and suspected things with the code base, it's probably one of the many things that the studio is trying to have to deal with at the moment. So it is one factor in running a software business, but it depends. It can be a big factor, or it can be a smaller factor, depending how you manage it.
So fingers crossed that after the release of Bonsai Run, that we do indeed get a gap month, and maybe, hey, if I always say and I think everybody has said this too, but Farsight, if you need to take longer. We'll wait. So long as there is actual improvement happening to the game, nobody's going to complain that, oh, we didn't get a game this month.
Well, look, we may not complain, but their bank balance will.
Their bank balance will. That's true.
And that's a problem.
But you also have to then weigh the bank balance of, is this affecting your customers in terms of, and I always say this with the first impression, you might get a customer's first dollars, but will you get their next dollars? And their next dollars are what keeps you really alive, especially when you've got this many seasons of tables out. So if they only buy 1 season as a test to go, well, we'll see, and then they go, oh my God, 2 of the tables don't work, because they buy for season 1. Yeah, 2 of the tables don't work, and there's this weird scoring thing going on, and the leaderboards aren't working. Well, why would I want to buy the rest of the seasons?
Yeah, that's a valid point to make. Like, it's where is your ingress point into the platform? And if it's an early season, then chances are you're going to have a very different opinion of the platform than if you go and buy season 8. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really, really good tables in that first couple of seasons. And
you kidding me? They're the gold star tables.
The top 10s. And really, they're the ones that, if you're going, they're the ones that will bring people in. The ones that they're now playing in the arcades going, geez, I remember when I used to play these at home, and then they go and find it with these names mentioned in the description. They go, yeah, shut up and take my money. I'm spending what, $20 on this, where I can play 20 credits on one of these games I've burn up in no time. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough, right?
So anyway, that's that little bit of griping, knowledge drop, I don't know, what have you, but I said I would do it, and so therefore I did it, folks.
One of those.
Hopefully something will be done because of it.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, chances are they probably will take a look at the table packs anyhow. I think if everyone here open up a support ticket with support@farsight.com or wherever the address is, that will get their attention. But I dare say they probably already know about it anyhow. But that still shouldn't. If you really like those two tables and you're having trouble playing them, that's a really good motivation to send them an email. It doesn't take long, so get on and do it.
Yep.
It'd be even better if they had a way of doing it in app. So if send us a support message or something like that in app, that would be even better.
Right.
Because then people wouldn't have to like hunt around for the support email. Or like you could do things in apps now, like you can have intercom and all these really amazing services that allow you to interact with your clients. And it would be very interesting to, like, as a product manager, that's what I'd be looking at doing. Working out some feedback mechanism in the game that you could use. So yeah.
Anyhow, moving on. We played ET in survival mode in the Zen Pinball FX3 tournament this week, and after having spent time with ET, I can say I don't like ET.
Oh, okay.
Well, I played it, just kind of get first impressions, and it didn't really do anything for me. But then once you're in, playing it for a week and trying to do things, you start to, okay, maybe I should look at the rules. Maybe I should do this. And I don't like the flow of the game. I don't like the shots that you have to make. Everything about it just to me is a struggle. And in survival mode, especially, points do not come easy.
Right.
And so you're up against the clock as well as trying to make enough shots in time to score the points you need. There's no easy points on that table. So yeah, it's don't care for it.
Yeah, that won't be coming on the rotation list anytime soon.
Not particularly, no. I think I've had my fill, and that's going to be the end of it for me on that one.
Fair enough. So what's the next one you're going to do?
I'm really debating. I've talked about doing this deep dive into a table where we play it in all the modes, and what would be something that would be deep dive worthy. And I keep on coming back to Moon Knight because it's just such a bizarre table. And I remember a long time ago, I tried to learn it. And once I started getting the hang of it, I thought, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. But that was when I was playing on the PS3. And since then, I've barely touched it. And when I loaded it up recently in Steam, I just went, what the hell is going on with this table again? I just had no clue what was going on.
It's bizarre, right?
But I don't know if it's a good table to pick either, in terms of not a lot of people are going to own it.
Oh, really? You think it's not very popular?
Well, the table pack that it came with, I believe it's Moon Knight and Ghost Rider and Blade and maybe Wolverine. I can't remember if those are the 4 tables that were in that pack. But it's one of those packs that's just kind of like, and it's earlier Zen, so
the physics are a bit wonky.
Well, the physics, but also just the rules and the placement of flippers. Everything's just kind of off.
Weird.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I keep on coming back to thinking about, but I think this is the table to do it on. So I don't know. We'll
just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Make it Moon Knight.
Yeah, just do it. Make it Moon Knight. That's the only way you're going to be able to find out whether people have it or not, or if they are interested. And it's a pretty cheap experiment. Let's be serious.
So Zen, if you suddenly see an uptick in purchases on whatever pack has Moon Knight in it, you can send my cut over here. Yeah. I'll take my taste. Yeah, and beyond that, that's about all the digi pinball that I've messed around with.
Well, I actually have some real pinball news to talk about. So the first bit is, yesterday Zach and I went to Netherworld and we participated in I guess you could call it a tournament. It was pin golf, and it was real life pin golf, and the format was really good. Of course, it was a full course of pin golf, so it was 18 holes. So that meant 9 pinball machines were in the mix with 2 goals per machine. And the way you had to do it was you had to do the goals in order, and you had to do them in a separate game. So, for example, if you on Twilight Zone managed to start multi-ball and score 150 million, you had to do those 2 things separately on 2 games.
Well, that's a way to get quarter drops.
Well, it's okay because part of your entry fee was that you got 18 tokens.
Oh, okay.
So you got basically a bag of tokens. You got this pretty cool little pin, which for those of you who have been following me on Twitter, you will have seen already. But I will hold it up to the screen now if you would like to see. It's basically a little monster playing golf with a pinball machine. This is my list of very full card of all my little pins and medallions I got from Netherworld. So I'm starting to get a bit of a collection. So you got that, you got your scorecard, you got the 18 tokens, and you got a drink. So that was about $30.
Okay.
So that's not bad because $18, so $1 a game basically. So 18 tokens, and the rest is just like you get one of those pins, which they're not cheap, they're really good quality. So it was pretty fair, the entry price. And so unfortunately, we had a bit of a rough course. We had a lot of 4s. So how it works is if you get the goal on the first ball, you get a hole in one, and then subsequently each ball gets you a lower ranking. So you get a hole in one, a eagle, a birdie, and then a bogey. I think that's how golf works. I don't really know.
Well, it'd be par.
Oh yeah, that's right. You get par. So, so that was fun. The goals, some of them were devilish. We have this older Stern Electronics pinball machine called Stingray, and one of the goals on that was to get all 5 drop targets down in one ball. The problem is that the drop targets reset when the ball drains, and the other problem is the drop targets are right near the outlane. So you can imagine what a drain monster that thing is when you're trying to shoot the drop targets. And the Walking Dead goals were really, really tough as well. Sorry, my CGM's going off. The Walking Dead goals were brutal. You had to, one of them was start a multi-kill mode, which I don't even know how to do. And the other one was start Bloodbath Multiball. Now, Bloodbath Multiball is really hard to start because on the left-hand side of The Walking Dead, you've got 3 drop targets. Yeah. And the value that you select on the drop target cycles each time. So what you have to do is not only do you have to get the drop targets down and aim carefully, but you have to get it when the light that you want to actually achieve is lit. Oh, so geez. It's so hard. It's such a I think everyone was getting par 4s on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really, really brutal. But there was some other fun challenges, like I think on Demolition Man, you had to start ACMAG and Capture Simon in the same ball. So basically that's 2 shots up to the crane and select those 2 modes. And the other one on that one was start multi-ball in one ball. And of course, there's a bit of a trick with that where you can lock freeze on that game. And then use the light lock crane award to actually start multi-ball automatically. So that's a quick way of doing that one. So it was really fun. It actually took Zach and I a fair while to be able to do it. It was about, I think, a good 4 hours to make our way through around the course. Oh, wow. So there were a lot of people there. Yeah, there was lots and lots of people. And it was a really, really fun day. Like Zachary had a ball, and hang on a second, guys, I'm recording here. If you're gonna make noise, go outside, please. Both of you, outside now. I'm not continuing until you go. Off you go, you two. Off you go, Sienna. Yes, now. Well, you want to stay warm? Go and put some warm clothes on, or go and sit in your bed. Come on, you can't both be in here. Out you go.
I just wanna lie down with it.
No, because then Zachary will want to do it, and it's not fair. So off you go. He asked to come in here and participate in the podcast early, and I said no, because I wanted to be left alone while I record. So off you go, please. I'll be out in a minute anyhow. Yep. Just go and get a rug or something and sit on the couch. I'll be out soonish. Quickly. Out of the way, Zach, so you can get out. Jeez. Thank you.
Oh, Sunday mornings are hard.
Kids. Why would you bother? Anyhow.
Hey, we were smart. We stopped at 1.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So Pim Golf, let's resume where I was talking about there. I don't know where I got up to, but it was something to do with probably lots of fun was had.
Yeah. 4 hours of being there.
Okay, yeah. I might pick it up from there. So yeah, it was a 4 hours duration, and there were lots and lots of people there, which is pretty typical on the weekend of Netherworld because it's a popular place. And one of the biggest draw cards, of course, was the fact they have Dialed In on the floor.
Oh, Dialed In.
Oh, geez.
What a good game. What a good game.
You've played this before, right?
I played it, yeah, when I was up in Portland.
Oh, there's something about that game, man. It's a narrow body, but it feels like a wide. Like there's so much going on in it.
Well, do you get what I say with the other 2 Jersey Jack tables that I've played being Lord of the Rings The Hobbit, and Wizard of Oz. I felt that the wide body is hard to design for, and hard, and wide bodies never play fast, or they don't feel like they play fast. They're very slow tables, and I just don't care for either of those 2 offerings that they did. Dialed In, it's a Pat Lawler, and you can tell it's a Pat Lawler.
Oh, can you ever? Jeez.
But there's a bazillion things going on that also just and they just recently Jersey Jack they posted on Twitter what they call their rule tree for Dialed In.
Rule tree.
And so it was a diagram of, go here, start this. If you start this, then from here you can get this, and it broke it down. And I tweeted back, I said, hey, here's an idea. How about if you hold the right flipper, that pops up on the screen?
Yeah.
with like grayed out where you currently are, in the progress of doing this. Because when you see the tree, it's not incredibly complex, but in order to complete one branch, there might be 8 things that you have to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of steps to get to certain areas, but it's not like it's this massively convoluted, it's not AC/DC. So it's definitely a game, though, that you got to be able to hear the audio on.
Oh, and I couldn't because, number 1, I had Zach there, and number 2, like, it was nuts. I want to go there, like, some weekday at 12 o'clock with my headphones and just dial in to that pinball machine.
Because there's a lot of audio clues given.
Oh, is there?
A ton. And my game improved vastly once I plugged in. And so,
okay. I'll have to talk to Netherworld about making sure the volume, just the ambient volume is up loud enough on that game in that case, because everyone, it's pretty rough that it was actually in Pin Golf, because this would be pretty much the first time anyone had seen the game, because it had only been unboxed this week. And it's like, oh yeah, now it's in Pin Golf. It's pretty much reminds me of The Wizard, the movie The Wizard, where they had to play that sight unseen game that no one's ever really played before. And it's like, come on, guys. Like the goal was complete a mode and get a SIM card. How do you even do that?
Right. I don't even know how to start a mode, let alone complete one.
Exactly. It's like, how do we even get that? And then the other one was start a multi-ball, which seemed, I managed to light lock at some point. But shooting up that ramp, or I just was having a lot of trouble getting it up that side ramp to actually lock the balls. And I was going, oh, wow, this is like a punishment. But it was a really fun punishment. I actually started on one of the games. It wasn't score-based. It wasn't a score-based challenger course. So I just went, well, I'm going to do the classic thing you do in pinball and just shoot the flashing things.
Right.
Because that's generally a good strategy to do. And by shooting the flashing things, I got 130,000 on it. So that seems fine.
Which is, I was going to say, and this is Jersey Jack pin scoring, so 130,000 is pretty dang good.
It's nothing to be sneezed
at. When your average score of playing and not knowing what you're doing on that
30,
table, exactly 30,000.
It's pretty normal, yeah. So I was happy with that performance.
Did the machine take snapshots of you while you were playing?
No, I didn't enter selfie mode.
You didn't get selfie mode?
No, I didn't get selfie mode.
I was totally unprepared for selfie mode, so I didn't know to pose for the camera.
Well, I may have got selfie mode, but I couldn't hear a thing. So I wouldn't have known that selfie mode was even going because it was that loud in there.
Gotcha.
But it was, that game, it just, everything about it flows well. I could see why it won that many awards this year, because from a game that when it was announced, everyone's going, oh, it's a mobile phone game. Like, what's going on, guys? To when you actually play it and stand in front of it and interact with it, you go, I can see why this is $14,000 worth. Like, this is worth every cent of that.
And it's that grand experiment of, this is the first non-licensed pin to come out. Who knows how long, right?
Yeah.
And there was that big question of, well, is anybody gonna latch onto it? But damn if they didn't nail the art and didn't nail the style that draws you in. When you're standing there over the table, it draws you in. And then once you start playing it, you start recognizing little lawlerisms. There's Bob and his secret hideaway, and boy, this sure does seem like is that a whirlwind coming through here? And it's
got so many homages to the other pinball machines he's done. I love it. It's basically a pinball geek's wet dream. Basically, this game. It's fantastic.
So I have I had a thought, and this again goes back to me trolling the threads, seeing what was new. But there was an idea of, hey, how about this next season is nothing but System 11 tables for Pinball Arcade, since none of them are licensed, or I shouldn't say none of them, most of them. I think there's only 2 that carry any sort of a license.
Roller Games being
one, and I forget what the other one was, but very loose, light licensing. But beyond that, there's still like 11 other tables that could be done. And so what I said was, System 11 machines to me are the equivalent of when you're at the end of, say, like when the PlayStation 3 was at the end of its cycle, you got some phenomenal AAA titles that seemed like they were squeezing out every last bit of juice that system could handle. And so you got just phenomenal play, phenomenal looks. Everything was just clicking on all cylinders. And then the PS4 comes out, and the first titles that come out for it, they might have some new shiny bells and whistles that you wouldn't have been able to play on the PS3. But beyond that, the gameplay itself, the rule sets are almost a step backwards.
Yeah.
Like you've been given too much, and they don't know what to do with it, and so they've lost their focus, and it just kind of goes scattershot. So I kind of felt that was the way when your first DMD games came out, that there was nothing innovative going on immediately, because they were so focused on the DMD that they forgot to focus on the playfield and flipping. And then eventually, things got a lot better, and then obviously Williams goes away, and Stern comes in and tries, but there was some, it was that's where you all of a sudden, oh, gee, look, it's the slot machine LED lights again, on a play field, and you're really trying to force something, and it took a little while before Stern finally got up and got their feet underneath them and started producing much, much, much better tables. And I feel that we're at the same cycle now with them going to these screens instead of the DMD, where they're putting all their focus on the screen. and there's been a sacrifice in the gameplay to go along with it. And that I'm wondering when exactly are we turning that corner? Because I feel that Dialed In was a turn of the corner for JJP. I'll be really curious to see their Pirates of the Caribbean table and how that is. But unfortunately, we're back to a wide body with that, I believe. So
yeah, well, they need a wide body for that. That's basically like 5 pinball machines in one that game. So yeah, they need a wide body.
Yeah, I don't know that you need the wide body or not. I think it's special circumstances. But if they want to do nothing but wide bodies, fine, have at it. Maybe at some point they'll figure out how to make him a little more fun. But I'm wondering with Stern, I feel that they're going, and I mainly say this based off of playing Guardians and playing Star Wars, where so much of it was about selecting your modes and your characters up on the screen rather than concentrating on what's actually going on the table itself.
It's really interesting because at Netherworld they've got Dialed In right next to Star Wars, and it honestly just makes Star Wars look like something from the 90s. I can't say anything else about it. I'm sorry, not Star Wars, Batman 66.
Batman 66.
It's just like, are these from the same like decade? It's unbelievable. Even from the same half decade, they just don't look anything alike. So yeah, just
you got to remember, Batman 66 is just basically a reskin of Dark Knight. With the LED or with the monitor thrown on top.
Yeah, and it absolutely screams that when you put it up next to something that actually is more accomplished. So yeah, I mean, to Stern's credit, the rule set and how that game plays is far better than when Netherworld first got that table. It was basically just a horrible thing to play, but it's actually quite enjoyable now. That being said, though, Dialed In within the first 5 minutes of me playing it had more stuff going on than that thing had in the first 9 months. And
made you want to play it again.
Oh yeah, I'd just If it wasn't a pin golf machine yesterday, I'd just be sitting on it all day. And basically, they might as well just pay my pay packet into that machine for the first couple of weeks, because that's where it'll be going. So yeah, I'll be going back there for sure when I'm in the office next week. So there's that, and then a bit of a project update, if you'll indulge me. So I'm at the point now where I verithaned a playfield once, and I think we covered last episode that I realized that it was actually an oil-based verathane. So what I decided to do, I've been doing a lot of research on paints and how you can actually use different types of paints together. And the evidence I've seen to date suggests that providing you let your paints cure for long enough, you can use anything over anything, and providing you actually provide a surface to key into. So the key with paint is if you try and, like, for example, lay down an oil-based coat and then quickly thereafter lay down a water-based coat, they're going to react. The reason is they skin over and they basically build up. The gases can't escape, so they bubble and all that sort of stuff. But if you let them cure for long enough and you treat the surface well, you can get away with it. So I think what I'm going to do, it's been sitting there now for a week. Most of the and most of the smell, like, you can still, if you put your nose right up to the playfield and you smell it, yes, you can still smell the fact that it's got some painty smell to it. But like, if you walk into the room, you don't get that odor that you get with oil-based paint. You don't get the volatile organic compound, the VOC smell that you get. So I think now's the time for me to actually get that with a bit of sandpaper, sand it down with probably 1,200 grit sandpaper, and see where I'm at. And I think I actually was speaking to someone at Netherworld yesterday who was telling me about that Stingray that was on the floor there has a fair bit of playfield wear. So the owner will be taking it away and getting it clear coated. And he was saying that he was actually thinking of getting the playfield touched up as well, but he said to do that would actually be prohibitively expensive through this guy who does it, because like you've got to like you've got to frisket everything off, and it takes a lot of hours to do it right, and he just doesn't know, he doesn't have the time to do that nor the expertise. And the guy was saying, look, unless you are very, very good at playfield touch up, and unless you have a pinball playfield that is low enough in graphical complexity that you can mask it off, like we're talking EMs in that era of game, which are very sort of clear in the way they actually structure their playfields, it's going to be very hard for you to get a good result on the playfield. So it might just be better to lock it in and leave it at that. And they went, yeah, I think I'm almost leaning towards that with Star Race. There's a few areas now that have a bit of rub off on them. I'm almost going, do I go to the trouble of doing it? Because if I do it wrong, it's going to look rubbish. And even if I do it right, there's probably going to be a color mismatch, because really the only way you're going to get the right color is to mix the colors yourself. And it's not something I'm really great at. So what I think I can achieve, though, is redoing the white and underneath all the inserts. I think that's something that's within my wheelhouse to be able to achieve.
Sure.
So I'll give that a go, because that's just one solid color, and I think that'll be fine. I'll do that. And maybe in the areas where the black has rubbed off a bit, I might look at doing the black, because again, solid color. But if there's any art rub off where there's like patterns or stuff like that, it's like, no, I'm not going there. I just don't feel comfortable doing it. And I'm going to be doing it with Verathane, and I'm not going to be doing it with 2-pack. So I think it's to the point now where I'm comfortable with the level of restoration I'm wanting to do on it. Yeah. Because I don't want to be that guy that then, sells this table or gets rid of it down the track and goes, and then the next owner goes, oh, I'd like to restore this playfield, and goes, what has this guy done to this thing? What horrors has he done to this playfield? I'm now going to have to try and work around. So
that with my firepower, I mean, that's obviously right where I was for a long time with, what do I do? Do I ruin it if I do this? But everybody on pin side was just like, well, why don't you just buy the CPR playfield? Like, well, because the CPR playfield costs more than what I paid for the pin itself. But that also made me realize that anybody that wants a restored firepower is going to go that route. They're just going to
do it.
Yeah, they're not going to repaint or do anything of this. So it is entirely me doing what I'm comfortable with, and so I am just kind of using this as a project, see what I'm capable of, and I pretty much already know what I'm capable of. So whenever I buy a future pinball machine, it's going to be in a lot better shape than what these have been.
Exactly right.
So
yeah, totally agree. And I think that's the same for me too. I know now what I'm comfortable doing. I'm totally fine with getting all the the mylar and adhesive off, but
yes,
when we're looking at doing a full playfield restoration, I'm drawing the line in the sand where I just re-verathane to get that surface back on it again.
Yeah,
and most likely just leave it there, and and that's fine by me.
Yep. No. Hey folks, we're gonna get to wrapping it up, which us, that means talking for a little bit more, but still, we're gonna get the business out of the way, which is, hey, have you dropped us an email anytime soon? We know you haven't, because we haven't gotten any.
That's right.
But if you want to, go ahead and do it. It's blahblahblockade@gmail.com. And by doing that, you can point us in the direction of whatever you would like us to discuss in future podcasts. We can answer questions or address comments, whatever. Oh, make sure you follow the show on Twitter @BlahCade. There you will get updates and whatever likes we do, links to other tweets that we care about for the week. You can also follow us individually. I am @ShutYourTrap. He is @Jared Morgs. Excuse me, Jared @Jared Morgs. And then, of course, there is the newly refreshed website, which is BlahCadePinball.com/episodes.
Yeah.
If you would go over there, you'll notice that I continue to drop movie reviews, and I have just dropped my movie review of Black Panther, so it is there for you all to check out. Short.
I have to go and check that out.
Yeah, I made a point with that particular review that it doesn't matter what anybody says. You're going to either go see it because you want to see it, or you have no interest in Marvel movies, and therefore you're not going to go see it. But it does come about. I had just reviewed Maze Runner: The Death Cure and just shat all over it.
Yeah, you saved me a lot of time.
Yes, and some of the very reasons that I disliked that are the very reasons why I like Black Panther. And the main thing is, it is a completely self-contained movie. It is not dependent. It is not dependent on you having seen any of the other Marvel movies.
I love those because I'm well and truly bankrupt from that perspective.
Yeah, and anything that was from a previous Marvel movie, they do enough of an update to get you up to speed so that you're familiar with who the characters are and why they're in the situation they are. And it's not until if you stick around all the way past the very end credits to the final 90 seconds of screen time before you get up and out of your seat, that's the only time where there's a direct reference to any of the other Marvel movies where you'd go, huh? If you didn't know who the character is that they're referring to. So that's why I say it's a completely self-contained movie that can live and die entirely on its own, and I really appreciated that aspect of it. So why don't you go head over to our site there and read up on that?
I will. I've actually been finding your reviews very interesting. So I would recommend, if you haven't been checking out Chris's reviews on the site, go and check them out, because they might end up saving you a whole lot of wasted time with movies that you might not have seen yet, and yeah, that you really shouldn't be investing anything in whatsoever. So yes,
well, I'm also finally caught up for the most part on the backlog of movies, and so now I'll be current with whatever's coming out. I'll be going and seeing, because I've kind of gotten everything else out of the way. So yeah, that's that. All right. Do we have any other business to cover?
I don't think so. I think we're all done for the week.
Well, how about that? All right, folks. We'll be back next week. Obviously, again, we'll be talking about the Jurassic Park tables on Pinball FX 3, and hopefully we'll have something to mention about Bonsai Run. So until then,
yeah.
Thanks for listening.
See you later.
All right, bye-bye.